Yes, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in for yet another power-packed episode from The Connect. Thank you so much for all those who've subscribed, those who are supporting the channel. It actually helps us to grow. It gives us motivation to bring you such great and amazing stories. And if you have a story out there you'd like us to come and just share with people, some lessons, inspiration, please reach out and we're going to come to you. But other than that, we're continuing with this great segment of fatherhood. And today we have a great guest. You guys are going to just learn and learn and learn. Hope you're ready for this one. I know we're recapping from the other one, but if you haven't watched the other one, go back and watch. And then now this is a continuation. It's a continuing series about fatherhood and everything to do with being a dad. So thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're joined by a great friend. I can call him a friend. He's a great friend. I look up to him, and in matters of fatherhood, being a man, I actually always ask the question. So it's good for you as well out there. Just find someone you can ask and have a conversation about being a man, conversation, family, anything in life. You better have someone just you look up to. So today we're joined by Ed. Karibu sana. It's always a pleasure to have you on the Connect, because this is not the first time he's here. He's not a guest. And he's not new to the Connect, but I just want him to say something, just introduce himself, and and then we're gonna take it from there. Ed, karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you, Peter. It's a privilege to come and have a chat with you about fatherhood. It's always a great pleasure to be in your presence. You're great fun to be with. So I'm looking forward to some fun discussions.
Amazing. So there's always that that thing in your mind when you're about, or when you're doing something. So you just had a baby, it's here, your son or your daughter, you're now a dad, and then now what, Ed? Now what do we do from there, Ed? What do we do now?
I can't remember, many months ago.
What now, Ed? Have you ever asked your question have you ever had that question when you just started something and then you're like, now what?
Yeah, now it's mess. Now it's dealing with a mess.
Yes.
The horrible nappies, the smell.
Oh my goodness. And no one never tells you that. I think you're told, but
yes,
when you're doing it, it actually hits and
you
you're
have
like,
no idea.
Oh my God, what am I doing? So we're going to just start this basic conversation because now I want us to just learn, how to take care of, it's a newborn, he's growing, there's things to be done. But now, where do you start now? Forming, maybe the relationship, forming this, getting the job done, or starting the job. How do you even begin?
I think for me, I think for me, looking back, I can see how I looked past the smell and past the mess and the changes, because there's a huge drastic change in your household. You have a small baby who needs 24 hours care. So there's some changes, huge ones. But I still remember how overjoyed, overwhelmed in some instances, and just really blown away by this human being that was so beautiful, cute, cuddly. They say words cannot describe, and that's actually really true. Emotionally, you really can't describe what has happened and the joy that you're getting from this baby. And I'll be honest, and I don't know whether many fathers have experienced this. When it came for my time to go back to work, I really struggled with that. And I always felt I'm leaving my baby at home. That was a huge struggle. And, it took me a long time to recover from the fact that we've had a baby, I've left my wife and the baby at home, and I just felt like I'm missing out on something, So, so that to me was a process, but it was an experience. It's always an experience when you have a child. It's an overwhelming, overjoying. There are a lot of emotions that you go through that are indescribable. And the only word that people have close to that is a bundle of joy. That's That's
a
how
bundle
it
of
is.
joy. But you know,
Yeah.
so for instance, there's some men who actually, you know, feel like running away because it's you know, you just, you know, get into this thing and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't really expect, you know, the sleepless nights, you know, taking care of you, especially here in Australia. We're talking about an Australian context.
Yes.
Because maybe before that I'll ask you a question, but
No
you know,
maids. Yeah.
looking after your wife, cooking,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
doing everything in the house.
Yeah.
And when now, I'll bring this
Yeah.
back so that now we get to understand what you need to do as a
Yeah,
father. Then
yeah,
when
yeah.
you know, everybody has come home.
Yeah.
How was, you know, growing up, and how did you see that you know, shown to you? You know,
Yeah.
being a father.
Yeah.
Why did you see, you know, putting your hands dirty,
Yeah.
putting your hands on, or what
Yeah.
image did you have when you
Yeah.
were growing up?
Fortunately, I had a very tough mom. So when my younger siblings were born,
Yeah.
I actually participated in
Oh,
dealing with a
wow.
mess.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and mom, you know, love mom.
Yeah.
She made sure we understood what it means to change a nappy.
Oh, wow.
You know, wash the baby.
Yeah.
Those little things. So
Yeah.
I mean, by the time I became a dad,
Yeah.
I kind of had a rough idea of the
Of what to
mess.
expect. Yes.
But it's also, I think, seeing how my dad responded. And I think we've discussed this with you.
Yeah.
My father, like many dads of his generation,
Yeah.
worked somewhere else. So it
Yes.
meant that a lot of his time
Yes.
was spent somewhere else.
Yes.
And occasionally we had some time with him. But what he also did to compensate on that was during school holidays,
Yeah.
would go and spend, whether it's 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks with him,
Yes.
which was such a you know, a wonderful time to be together. And it's also just seeing how he loved having his children around. I mean, he could not stop talking about his kids.
Oh, nice.
So for me, that is the picture I have of a father, the image I have of a father.
Yeah.
And he was a larger than life character to be around. So, and I think I've mentioned to you that, you know, when I grew up, got married, I just never thought I could measure up to be the father he was.
Yes.
So to me, that was the example that I had of a father.
And now seeing that, and now this is it. So we're starting from the start as a new dad.
Yeah.
As a man, what am I supposed to do? What you know, in the house?
Yeah.
Whether or not in the house, how am I supposed to be helping? Because now this is the start of life.
Yeah.
I know we're going to talk about the journey, what to do as we progress.
Yeah.
But what am I supposed to be doing in the house?
I think I was an apprentice. My wife had to take me through that.
So let's help out. Let's
I had
help
no
out
idea.
other fathers out there, because
I had no idea.
I didn't have an idea as well.
I was being told to do this. Can you do this?
Yeah.
Watch the baby.
Yeah.
Can you do this?
Yeah.
So I was like an apprentice, you know. I'm the handyman, so to speak. So I was just learning on the job. And I think both of you are learning on the job.
Yes.
So
especially first time dads and moms.
That's correct.
Yes.
But and I don't know whether we're going to touch on this.
Yeah.
There is a place where you kind of feel as a man and as a father, at some point you feel all the attention is on the baby.
Oh yeah.
I don't know whether we talk much about that. And you sit back and you think, what's my role in this?
And that's why I'm asking for the fathers. What am I supposed to be doing?
That's right.
In the first initial stages when the baby has just come back home.
Yeah.
As a man, what am I supposed to be doing? Because you went through apprenticeship,
Yes.
so maybe we can help out other men.
Yeah,
out there.
absolutely. I think just be sensitive to the needs. You don't have to be asked to do something.
Okay.
If something needs to be done, go ahead and do it.
Okay.
If the baby needs to be held, and the mom is doing something, please go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
You know, hold the baby, put the baby to sleep. There are those things, mundane things. Of course, there's the 1 a.m. Wake up call that you're thinking, oh my goodness, will this ever end? The good news is it will end at some point. And you look back and you think, oh, that was something. but I think it's just being sensitive, just being a helpful hand, offering to help
in the house,
wherever that help is required or it's needed. Just be there, be there emotionally. I think one of the things in that process that we can do as fathers is to disconnect. Because it's not about you. It's about the baby, right? So everything is about the baby. So you're like,
you got this.
You've got this. I'm cheering you on, but your input is needed as much as the input of the mother is important. Yours is important as well. So I think those little things, they make a difference, and they make a difference to the mom if the mom is the one who's looking after the baby 24/7.
Amazing. You touched on a very, I was coming to relationships and building this relationship with this child. Now the child is growing. They've started, they say the mother has the most, bonding or biggest relationship with the children. But as a father, how do I, build or grow this relationship? And also you mentioned a very strong point. Also not to forget the relationship with your wife.
That's correct.
So how do I build this now, this new formed relationship with both my wife and my child?
Yeah, I think, and that's really important for a man to continue putting that as the core of everything that you do.
Yeah.
It's not just about the baby, but it's about the two of you.
Yeah.
So you're parenting together, you're learning together.
Yeah.
So your whatever you're doing, however you're helping, is also part of the journey. And as you're doing this together, you're learning together.
Yeah.
You're growing together in relationship. You're understanding or cultivating values together. You're understanding what's important for us.
Yeah.
I've always been of this view, and I'm sure some people have a different view. I've always been of the view that whatever is done around the baby, whilst the baby's needs are important, the needs of the two of you are also paramount. And everything you do, the baby has to be included in that. So that means if you visiting someone, you do it together as a family. If there's an event somewhere, you do it together with the child. If you're going to church, you do it together. If it's a birthday, you're always doing these things together. Therefore, that means that you're always in tune of what your baby's needs are, what your wife's needs are. She understands how you respond to certain stresses as they happen. And I think that's part of bonding. Everything you're doing, but you're never losing the fact that as much as the baby is important, your spouse is also a priority.
Because I think most of the times, like, as men, you feel like the baby has all the attention. And you're not getting whatever you need from the wife. That's a very good, important point. Just to remember, whatever we're doing, the day-to-day, just make sure that you involve your wife. And even can leave your baby with a friend, with the sister, and everything. But now I want us to talk about the culture and identity now within our house, and how a father plays part or role to making that culture. So let's talk about culture.
Let's talk about culture, and also probably I'll just pick up from what we were saying and what you mentioned. At some point, my wife Kristen used to go and do shopping. I mean, I'm hopeless in in house shopping.
I'm not gonna say anything.
So you know what I mean. Most men there will understand that. So she decided, you know what, I'll be doing the shopping. You stay home with the child. And that was wonderful, because two things. One, she would go and shop, but that's also a time for herself.
Yes.
Without the child.
Yes.
knowing that the child is with the father,
Yes.
is somewhere secure, is
Yes.
somewhere safe.
Mm.
She doesn't have to go shopping with the child.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. So it
Yeah.
was a win-win.
Mm.
I'm hopeless at shopping. She's really good at it. And she has, but also, it's also as a place where the child is also seeing the other side of the parent,
Of the father.
of the father.
Yes.
So the mom has the input
Yes.
Monday to Friday or whatever that is.
Yes.
But at some point, dad is present.
Yes.
So either dad is playing with the child,
Yeah. Cooking.
or cooking,
Washing.
washing,
Yeah.
reading.
Yes.
So there are all these things that as a father,
Yes.
there are all these values
Yes.
you are instilling.
Indirectly.
That's correct. And that is really important. Allowing that space for the mom not to be there.
Yes.
And allowing you to be able to have this interaction with the child. For example, there are times we used to camp outside the house with the kids.
Yeah.
Mom will be in the main house.
Yeah.
Daddy and the kids are in a tent outside. And that was a lot of fun. They loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're little things. They don't have to be expensive things. You don't have to take them to an expensive place for them to really feel or to bond or to feel that dad cares. It's the little things. I mean, I miss the camping things we used to do together over a number of years. We used to, during summer, Easter holidays, we'd invite a few other friends and would camp outside.
Nice.
Would not necessarily go camping elsewhere.
So it's the small things that you do.
It's the minor things.
You mentioned a very sensitive, and that actually informs to culture. But before that, how did that make you feel as a man? Because some of us are struggling. You're left with the baby.
Yep.
You're the one to change nappy. You're the one to clean. You're the one to do everything within the house.
Yeah.
How did that make you less of a man?
It doesn't. It really doesn't make you less of a man.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, it empowers you because it gives you an opportunity to be able to speak into your child's life.
Yes.
As opposed to some instances, how some of us were brought up by other people.
Yeah.
This is your direct input. This is your one shot.
Yes.
Your mentoring, your teaching, your skilling your child.
Yes.
Either in terms of advice, in terms of a helping hand.
Yeah.
There are those little things. So it does not, changing nappies, dealing with a mess, it's not. It is part of life. It doesn't make you less.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I think it just makes you a better man and appreciate the journey.
The growth.
That's correct. Yeah.
And now informing you spoke about very subtle things about reading, about what you're doing within the house. That actually informs culture because culture is a certain way of doing. How did you now develop or grow or bring up a culture within your set of house so that the kids are growing and they're observing and you want them to have a set of values? How did you do that? How did you grow the culture within your house?
So part of it, as I said, is just activities.
Yes.
Just doing things together as a family. Going out together, going away together. Doing those things. Intentionally interacting with people that are of the same value, or in a sense broadening your understanding of what does it mean to be a parent by interacting with other parents who are not like you.
Yes.
And then learn,
because it's a large Australian culture.
It's a large culture. So in many points, we would interact with people of Japanese culture, Indian culture, Filipino, Greeks, Italians. So there's this Jewish people. There's this mix of culture, and instead of kind of sitting back and thinking, I'm not comfortable. It's really getting out of your comfort zone and learning what is actually happening out there. And then you realize at the end of the day that we are all the same. We are all traveling the same journey.
Yes.
But the more important thing is, what do you as an individual or as a parent, what are your values?
Yes.
Because you realize you have grown up with this perception of what it means to be a parent or a father.
Yes.
So this is your time to actually start bringing out those values that have always been resident in you. You're actually taking out that resource and you're using it to parent your child. So part of culture is not just your background or your ancestry. It is what you do, how you exercise that, how you instill that on your child, because that's going to inform identity, who they are. Exposing them to, to a wider worldview of how things are done outside there. I mean, there are things you do at home that might not necessarily be practiced at someone else's family. But in this home, this is how we do what we do. And that's really important. Your child needs to know that when they are within these walls, this is our home. This is our culture. This is what we do. If we pray
but
before
but we interact with
we
other
do
people.
interact with other people. They are different. They do things differently. The expectations may be different, and we need to respect that. And you need to build that into your culture as well.
So something I wanted to ask: is it good to have those hard conversations? Because those are hard conversations with your children.
Absolutely.
So do you have those hard? As a father, do you need, or as a family, do you need to have those hard conversations and say, these are our values. We appreciate and respect other people's values. But in this house, is it good to have such conversations?
Absolutely.
Do you have such conversations?
I think those conversations about the values that you hold as a family help shape confidence, identity of who they are. So that they are not out of place when they go to someone else's house. For example, one of the tough conversations that we've had with our parents, with our kids, as a father, and I was not just having this conversation with my children, I was having these conversations with other fathers too. And what had actually happened is we were out somewhere, having a good time together with our kids in a mixed group of people. And we realized that at some point the kids were going from room to room, trashing someone else's house. It's a worst kind of feeling. And I realized that, hang on, my kids, as much as I have this perception of who they are, when they're in a group mix, then some things are bound to go out of the norm. So we had to pull back and say, hey, this is my expectations of you. Next time, if we are in such a setting, this is the standard that I want you to uphold. Not only was I having those conversations with my kids, I was also having conversations with parents whose kids were in the same situation. And I was saying, as a group, this is the value that we need to uphold. And they're tough conversations.
They're tough conversations. And that actually goes to my next question, where by now you're trying to form this identity of this child, and you don't really want to suppress it. Because from an African background, I know we were really, you really suppressed at some point. It's sort of, you're just supposed to be seen and not heard. How do you balance that thin line between suppressing and actually allowing the identity of your children to grow?
I think that's a very challenging area for many people, because your family of origin and how you've been brought up plays a huge role in how you parent. As much as you would like to say you're different, those things would influence who you are, how you parent, how you speak, how you react to certain situations. One of the best things that you can do as a father is to unlearn some of those things. Give yourself a permission to unlearn some things. Because if you exercise some of the things that or ideas or ways you are brought up, they can actually be quite damaging to the child and damaging to the relationship. And I had to really unlearn and listen to my wife's input, which is really important, because your wife would be looking as an outsider and see how you react to certain situation. And she needs to be given the permission to speak into that and say, hey, I don't think the way you spoke was correct. I don't think the way you acted was actually okay. I don't think, so that space needs to be created. Because there are kids who are strong-willed. That's a part of their personality, but it's also a strength. It's not a negative, it's a strength. So what you need to find out is, how do I use this to help nurture the child and not to destroy the child or to suppress that to the detriment of the child. Because if the child cannot speak up and the child cannot express themselves, then how are they going to form an identity of who they are? So they're kids by nature are very soft. They are, quite reserved. Some may be thoughtful inwardly. They may be really thoughtful. They're thinking about what's happening. So they might not be as bubbly and energetic. But there are some kids who are really bubbly, energetic. They push all the wrong buttons, according to your parenting book. But in actual sense, it is wired in them. So I think we need to interrogate deeply, reflect deeply, and find out how do we work together as parents, as a father, how do I speak into this and ensure that the child grows up with this personality, but it's actually beneficial to him and to those around him. And that's an ongoing process. It doesn't stop. They become teenagers, that is still a process. They become young adults, that's still a process. It's still a process. Even when they become parents, and you're a grandparent, for example, there are things you still need to speak into. And that's something I learned from my father as well. When I was a teenager, true story. I mean, most of us growing up in cultural settings, getting a smack on your behind was not unusual. However, when I transitioned, I went through the rites of passage. I realized something that had actually happened. From that point on, my father or even my mother never smacked me. Absolutely never. So from there on, it was about having conversations. So that was a transition process that I realized had a remarkable change in how I interacted with my parents. So that was one. When I had my first child, that position changed. Because now it actually flipped. Because again, my father really decided to honor me by, using a term that brought honor to the fact that I'm now a father.
So with this identity, it's actually, as fathers, it's actually, two-sided, because as a man, you also having, when you're growing up, you have this macho and you sort of strong-willed as a man, and now you parenting and you're looking after maybe a teenager or a boy who's really pushing the boundaries. How then now do I, one, become, that balanced parent, and two, change, discipline, because where we grew up, we grew up, when something happened, you get a smack. But now we're in a different environment, different things, different styles. But as a man, that's a big change to a man, because how we saw you really have to smack, or you really have to be this tough guy. You really have to, you have the final say. But now your kid also have a say. As a man, how do you now adjust to that? And also after that, how do you now discipline and not kill this identity of these children?
I think we have to understand discipline. The way we understand it, I think, from where we have come from, how we've been brought up, is actually incorrect. The word discipline is actually intertwined with the word training. So you can't disciple someone, discipline someone without training them.
Yes.
So it has much more to do with training.
Disciple.
Yes, it is the root word. So it has much more to do with training than harming someone or causing pain, bodily pain in someone. So we have to, I think, step back and say, what is it exactly? What does it mean to be a man? Being a man, does that mean that you have to cause pain for that to
cement your
that's
authority?
Correct. And is that really, is that actually what manhood is all about? Because if manhood started and stopped with you inflicting pain, then we have to interrogate that thinking of who a man is. Personally, and the way I have reflected and been on a journey as a man and as a father has been more to offer guidance, speak wisdom, bring the family together and have a conversation about the things that really matter and the things that I probably feel are important, and bringing everyone on board and having those conversations.
That's leadership, actually.
It is leadership.
Yes.
And that's what being a father means. You're offering leadership. You're offering vision. You're giving advice and guidance. And you're also receiving. So it's not just giving.
That part, receiving.
You're also humble enough to say, I'm receiving.
Yes.
What is your wisdom? And you'll be amazed about the wisdom of kids as well.
Yeah, and your wife.
Absolutely. You'll be amazed about your blind spots, things that you don't see, that they see, and they can speak into and bring a balance into that homestead. So I think masculinity, the way I understood it, and I saw my father was in charge of about 200 people. So he managed about 200 people. And he did it the way people of his age used to do it, right?
Yes.
And sometimes in our home, that probably was the case. But there was that other part of him that was about relationships. It was not about doing things. It was just about relating. And that is the man or the masculinity that really I'm endeared to. Spending time with family, spending time with people, listening to wisdom and being able to also relay and convey that wisdom. And having a moment or where you can actually sit back and reflect and be insightful on certain things. I'm not, as a man, no one expects me to be a fountain of all knowledge. I think it's an expectation that is too far-fetched.
And a lot of men are actually crumbling because of that.
That's
because
right.
You're carrying so much weight on your shoulder, and you cannot even tell your wife or ask help from even your wife, not even your children, your wife, because now you're carrying or you're putting this facade. I got everything together. Sometimes, how many times have you gone where your wife is the one who's actually more? We're coming to that. We're coming to that, but. That identity of I have to carry everything on my shoulder. And it's actually killing men.
Absolutely.
And then I've seen a lot of fathers going to the grave because they've carried so much weight and they didn't ask for any help. But that's a very good conversation. But now with the discipline, as we finish with discipline, does that mean now we have to relook at how we discipline, especially from ethnic backgrounds? Does that mean we have to relook how we discipline so that we can actually enable our kids grow in this country and have that strong identity? Because I've realized in Australia, they really need to have a very, not really vocal, they have to be vocal. They have to speak out for themselves. Unlike where we're coming from, where people are very subtle and very laid back. So does that mean as a man we have to really look at how we discipline?
We have to. We have to reinterrogate that and realize that we grow in a culture where communication is key. Verbalizing
Yes.
your thoughts,
Feelings.
Yep, and having an emotional intelligence is really key.
Yeah.
It's not your physical, ability. It's really emotional intelligence and social intelligence that you really have to exercise.
Yeah.
And that's the environment, families, kids, are in.
Yeah.
And therefore, you have to then step back and say, okay, this is what's happening. How do I develop as a father to cultivate emotional intelligence when I'm dealing with my children? Because remember, you are also interacting with your children from an emotional perspective.
Yes.
How do I communicate intelligently with an emotional, or rather, with an emotional intelligence?
Yeah.
Not going into fits of rage and anger and trying to flex your muscles and try to have your way. How can I have a debate, a conversation with my son or my daughter that is a give and take, is a win-win for everybody? Yes, there are times I've found myself saying, this is what I said so, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe there's a place for that.
Yeah.
But it's not every other time. In fact, a majority of the time is not I said so.
Yeah.
It's more, can this be done?
Yeah.
Can we do this?
Yeah.
There is a give and take.
Yeah.
Most of the time is a give and take. So I think as a father coming from a different culture, that has been a journey of developing and growing and stepping back and kind of reflecting and thinking, well, I could have managed that a little bit better. Those conversations, and I've had to apologize. I've had to apologize to my children. I have to apologize to my wife and say, oh, I'm sorry, right? As hard as that can be,
It's very
I didn't grow up in a home where people apologize. So I've had to learn to apologize. So if I expect my son or my daughter or my wife to apologize to me, then surely I must also be able to give back in apology where I go wrong. It doesn't demean me as a man. It actually empowers me to be able to speak into their lives.
There's this big question I've been meaning to ask, because with all this going on, there's the part where you really need to provide for this family. But now this thing has really, gone out of, proportion or, with all this happening, how do you provide then as a man? Because you have to be there, you have to create the relationship, you have to create a safe space, you have to do activities with them. At the same time, you have to provide. How do you do that as a man?
Look, you have to, I think, make some decisions and prioritize and say what's important in this space. You'd be surprised how family can get along with little. It doesn't have to be much. With little, just enough. You have a roof over your head. You have food on the table. You have fuel, to go to work and do something, go to church, visit friends. At least you have the basics, right?
Yes.
And for us, so for me as a father, there are times I had to scale back and say, well, earning more money, is it going to take me away from the family, or is it going to keep me within the family circle? And having seen the push and pull that my dad had, working away from home over a very long period of time, and seeing the impact that had in the relationships at home, I had made a decision that that's not a situation I would like to have when I'm raising my kids.
Yeah.
So therefore, right from the start,
Yeah.
Earning more money was not on the cards. And we were very fortunate that we were surrounded by very supportive friends, very close friends from all walks of life.
Yeah.
It was not just Africans or in all walks of life.
Yeah.
And some very wealthy people, and some who had less than us.
Yeah.
But our perspectives and values were very similar. And therefore, it helped me not to reflect on keeping up with the Joneses.
Chasing after the next big thing.
No, that was never in the cards. I'll tell you this, Peter. I'm not so sure I've had this conversation. We lived in a street in Clayton that we lived in a house that had the cheapest rent. It was the worst house in the street. A house that was built in the 50s, a house that did not have any air conditioner, had one heater. It was a very basic 1950s house, right? We raised our kids there for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
But I want to tell you the relationships that we still maintain now were formed when we were in that house.
Wow.
And I realized it had nothing to do with the money. It had nothing to do with the house we lived in. And we also realized that it was an opportunity for us in that space to be able to set ourselves up as a family for the next season of our life. So for 7 years, we lived in there. We never thought that we lacked in anything. We never saw our lack. We were actually very grateful. And I'm not saying there were no challenges. There were challenges. Some financial challenges. We were on one wage.
Wow.
We were on one wage for most of that time. Our kids were in kinder, which is, as you know, is not cheap.
Yes.
It's like another salary. But by God's grace, we were able to meet our basic needs. And yes, whilst at that point I was the provider, there was a time my wife was the provider. She was the one who was earning more than myself. And even after that, there was a time, and there have been times where my wife has been able to earn more. And there are times she scaled back, depending on the season we're in with the kids. There are times she had to work 3 days a week. There are times she did 2 days a week. So it ebbs and flows depending on the needs of our children. But at no point, whether she has earned more or less, did she feel that she was more superior, or did I feel that I was more inferior, or vice versa. It was just a relationship where we partnered together and we did what we needed to do for that particular season. And it is through that particular period of time that is what has made us to be what we are now.
Wow. Oh, wow. Amazing, amazing. I knew if I'll have Ed sit on this seat, you'll just get wisdom, and there is just pure wisdom. And coming from providing now, with that all said and done, and all these things are happening, Ed, now. As a man, how did you now take care of yourself? Because you learning, you're learning, you're changing seasons.
Yeah.
There's times you don't have money,
Yeah.
but you still, you're still intact.
Yeah.
You're still
Yeah.
intact, as we can see you now.
Yeah.
Mentally, you're intact.
Yeah.
Physically, you're intact.
Yeah.
Spiritually, you're intact.
Yeah.
How did you now take care of you as a man?
There are things that I do, and some of them I still do as a man, just out of pure enjoyment.
Yeah.
there was a time we used to go out play golf. We started learning how to play golf with Christine at some point before she fell pregnant. And then that, fell off the rails because the season changed. So we had a baby. And occasionally friends would come and say, hey, let's go play golf. We just go out with the boys and we play golf. It happens from time to time. One of a very good friends of mine actually gifted me, actually two friends, they gifted me with golf clubs, which I haven't used for a couple of years. Just because it's a different season. The things I love doing, for example, I love driving out in the country just by myself.
Long drives.
Go and look at cows and goats, things that are familiar to me.
Wow.
And I remember my taking my kids to a farm out in the farming area, and the smell and all that. And my kids were asking me, Dad, why do you like driving to such kind of places? I say, look, I connect with my upbringing. So the things I just enjoy. I enjoy touring. I enjoy traveling. So when I have an opportunity to do something by myself, I do it. Washing dishes, amazingly, was my timeout. You wouldn't believe that. But just washing dishes, looking at that.
Someone that's therapy.
It's amazing, You're not thinking of anything. You're just thinking of the plates.
Wow.
It's the little things.
It's small things.
Someone might think, going out for a party or spending time out with friends, for those who perhaps love, extracurricular activities. They may think that's what it means for time out. For me, I don't drink. I never, I didn't enjoy that. I gave that up. I find that just being in the moment, enjoying nature by myself, reading a book, watching a movie, just being able to engage with things that I like, watching documentaries, reading, certain types of topics and engaging with that. It's amazing. There are times during lockdown, I used to wake up at about 1 a.m. and I would just read articles that were really interesting and very invigorating. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's something I never saw or did not understand. So what I want to encourage men, fathers, find something that you like. Find something that you like. Be true to yourself. Build that into your parenting or fatherhood. Ask permission from your wife to be able to engage in those things. In the same way, if your partner, your wife, spouse, whoever that is, if they love going out shopping for therapy, give them the permission to do that. If they want to hang out with the girls, do that. I've had barbecues in my house with just boys. Just boys. Up to 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. Amazing. The things, you just interacting with men, you're laughing, you're sharing wisdom. Do it. Be true to yourself. Love the things that, keep you sane and things that invigorate you, inform you, and they develop you to be a better man.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Eden. Maybe as we wrap up, maybe there's something I didn't touch on or something any final remarks, anything that you'd like to, pass on to other men out there. This is your chance.
I think enjoy the journey as a father. Enjoy the journey. You've got one shot to instill skills, wisdom, advice to your kids. Be present. Don't be absent. Be present emotionally, especially emotionally. Be present in the house, in doing things. Be present for your wife and be present for your kids. I had a wonderful time on Father's Day having lunch with my daughter. My son was going out somewhere for another activity with my wife and spending time with my daughter. It was amazing. You know, we shared about her favorite food, some things that we wanted to do, just spending time, the two of us together, be present. And I think that's the best advice that I would give to every father. And fatherhood doesn't necessarily mean your own kids. You could be an uncle, you're a father. You could be a friend, and you're a father. So take those opportunities, run with them, and be of a positive impact to those who are around you as a father.
Amazing. And any resources maybe someone out there would like maybe to read, maybe about parenting or raising children, maybe you can share?
Yeah. So one of the books that really impacted me was a book by an Australian author called Steve Biddulph. Just check it out. It's called Raising Up Boys. And he's also written a book on raising up girls. That's one book, if you've got younger kids, that's an author I would recommend, especially on things to do with changes with the kids and the rites of passage. He's built that into his own book, looking at it from a Western perspective and being able to reflect what other cultures do. And I think coming back to the issue of identity, that is a really important process to be able to think about. There are resources with Focus on the Family. They've got heaps of wonderful resources there. Obviously, do not forget the scriptures. They're full of wisdom. I would recommend that anytime. And look, lean on to other men. Find out, what do other men do? Find out from their wives. Find out from their children. What do other men do? Find out from other men. Hang out with them and just say, look, how do you do what you do? Be open to wisdom. That's my advice.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Again, I want to say thank you so much, Ed, for this great opportunity, man. That video, that's just pure wisdom, man. Just take it and run with it. And if you're a young dad, a new dad, man, it gets easier as you go. And always remember to lean on all those resources, other men, your own father as well as a resource, brothers,
absolutely.
Everybody within the community, man. And it's such a pleasure, always a pleasure to have you, Ed. And we're just gonna say thank you. May God bless you out there. And thank you for watching this great video. And we shall see you guys on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.